Matt Cassel, the 13-year former NFL quarterback, played with 7 different teams. Matt, help us sort through all of this. It's 64 different starters. How do you view what we've seen this season in the NFL, just from the starting quarterback perspective?
Yeah, it's quite a wild year for the backup quarterback and the amount of guys that have had to play and been thrust into action. And when you look at the quarterback position in general, I mean, you're talking about the most important position, probably being the most vulnerable on the field at any given time. Just the nature of the position, you're exposed to a lot of hits, not only in the pocket, but at the same time, the athleticism that you're starting to see on the defensive side of the ball, especially that defensive line, and the creativity that these guys have to have at the quarterback position to get outside, their escapability, their elusiveness, but that also exposes them to more of those free runners when you're trying to create plays down the field. And then it's the RPO game. So there's so many different factors to why certain quarterbacks are playing. Some of it is obviously play related, whether a guy's stepping up, whether he's playing well. If he's not, obviously they're going to move on. But a lot of this is based on injury.
Yeah, Matt, and when you watch the tapes, and I know you watch from the quarterback vantage point, you know, for me, it seems like we're not doing a good enough job protecting the quarterback in terms of scheme protections. And then, you know, when the quarterback does have to move around, he's taking some unnecessary hits because we're getting more calls in the run game. What's your viewpoint on that?
Right. You take a risk every time, especially in the run game, right? All the new RPO and even the zone read stuff in which this guy's reading one defender. But every time that guy takes off into the field and they're exposing themselves to hits by linebackers, by safeties, I mean, that's a risk that you take with your quarterback position, the most pivotal guy on the field. And at the same time, like you said, protection has been an issue. And the guys are getting more athletic on that side of the ball. But how do you counteract that? Well, you've got to rely a little bit more maybe on the run game, slow those guys down. Screens have to become prevalent, as well as 7-man protection, 8-man protection at time, if the defense allows you to do so. Because again, the offenses have evolved. They've become a lot more spread. You see them spread it out and putting more on the quarterback, the emphasis on them making plays, because these guys are so unique. The Josh Allens of the world, the Patrick Mahomes, the Justin Herberts, where they can make plays on their own and they can make people miss, but at some point there's a give and take to that.
Mm-hmm. And Matt Cassel joining us. He's now an analyst for NBC Sports Boston. You're living, though, in Nashville. Tennessee Titans, a big game this Saturday night. Help us understand what's going through the mind of Josh Dobbs right now, who's been with the team less than 2 weeks, comes in, gets a start on a short week against Dallas. What do you see in him having so little time to get a grasp of the offense and being in such an important game, division on the line this week?
Right. For him, you know, I think in these type of situations, he's got nothing to lose. He's got everything to gain. And so you can go out there and play free. At the same time, it's about comprehending what that game plan is, what the Jacksonville Jaguars do, and how you're going to attack them. Because I believe that between Malik Willis and Joshua Dobbs, they felt like Joshua Dobbs gave them more of an opportunity in the pass game. And he was able to go out there. And last week was kind of his test week to see if he could go and play at a high level. And I thought he achieved that. He was able to complete some balls in the pass game, and now with Derrick Henry coming back this week, hopefully give them more balance with the run pass, because they're going to have to do some good things against the Jacksonville Jaguars, because that team is hot right now and Trevor Lawrence is playing at an elite level.
No doubt. You know, you played for the Patriots and you were in the Josh McDaniels structure of offense. And when you watched Jarrett Stidham play, what was your first thought and how successful he was when you watched him?
You know, I was really impressed with his composure, his poise, but also you immediately notice his comfort level within the system. Obviously, that he was drafted by the New England Patriots in 2019. He's had Josh McDaniels his entire career. So there's a comfort that comes with that of knowing the system. And I can tell you firsthand, I was in that system for 4 years before I was thrust into action when Tom Brady got hurt. And when you understand what to do in offense, when you have that toolbox at your disposal to get into the right checks, to move protection, to protect yourself, and at the same time, have confidence in conceptually what you're trying to achieve. I mean, it gives you that burst of confidence, and you saw that the other night. But in addition to that, I just thought he made some outstanding throws, some great decisions, and then also extended some plays. I mean, the throw to Devontae Adams when he's rolling out to his left, getting hit in the face by Fred Warner to get that ball out of his hands for a big play. He just competed all day long, and it was an outstanding performance by him and a great start.
It looked fearless, at least on the field. Took a couple of big shots as well. And Matt, I think about how we now view things from the betting perspective. And if you're going to have confidence in backing a lot of these backup quarterbacks thrust into the spotlight, there's probably some certain things on the checklist that you want to see, right? So I think back to your experience in New England. You come in week 1, middle of the game, Tom Brady goes down with an ACL injury. As you think back, aside from having a guy like Randy Moss to throw to and some Hall of Fame wide receivers, what was it that helped you and gave you so many things on that checklist to have such a good year and be able to step in right away and lead your team to some wins?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think number one, it was, again, my experience within the system. And I also got to learn from the best to ever play the position. I got to try to emulate that day in and day out, really recognize what he did at the line of scrimmage, how he led and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I was surrounded by some great playmakers, and that helps, right? When you have Randy Moss, when you have Wes Welker, we had Jabbar Gaffney, we had Daniel Graham, and all these different components that in a really good offensive line. Now, early on, I'm not going to sit here and say I stepped in and lit it up by any means. It was a continuous growth throughout the season, this maturation process, because I knew the system, but Josh McDaniels and the coaching staff tailored that system back for me. And as I became more comfortable and as they understood that I could handle more, it just started getting better and better and better. And then by the end of the year, or close to the middle of the year, I'd say there was a confidence in me, and I had that accountability factor, and they felt very comfortable in putting more checks on my plate. And that's when we really started to accelerate and go in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so important, and I think you see it with Brock Purdy too, right? I mean, Kyle Shanahan's learning about Brock Purdy within the system. They're going to do what Brock Purdy can do. It's the same thing with you. When you take over, Belichick I think he had 2 guys in for a workout that day, sent them both home because he wanted to give you the confidence that you were going to be the guy and that you weren't looking over your shoulder. So that's a giant first step. And then second, they learned about what you did well and what you couldn't do and what was more comfortable. And I think as you go through your career, I think that's kind of, people think they just assume that happens, but when you get to other places, it really doesn't. As shocking as it sounds, it doesn't happen enough to play to the strength of the quarterback. And we have this term, you got to manage him. Every quarterback needs to do the things that he runs the best.
100%. I mean, playing the quarterback position is difficult within its own right. But at the end of the day, if you can play to that player's strengths, have that open conversation. What conceptually do you like? What does this player do well? I remember during that season, look, we used to go 2x2 and 3x1 and 2-minute drills. And that's something that was very normal for a lot of people based on right hash, left hash. But I was very confident in my 3x1 set and the concepts that we'd run. And I talked to Josh about it. And Josh, he didn't hesitate. He didn't fight it and say, no, you've got to run what we run. He said, you know what, let's go 3x1 to 3x1. And that was just a subtle adjustment that we made early on in the season. But that gave me supreme confidence as we got into those crucial 2-minute situational football elements of the game that I was able to go down and execute, because I just really liked the 3x1 packages more so than I did the 2x2 and cutting the field in half. So those are things that good coaches do. But like you said, Mike, it doesn't happen at every place. And I had I think 13 coordinators once I left New England. Every single year I had a different coordinator, maybe other than 1 year. And other than that, it was just remarkable to see that a lot of coaches say, look, this is the system that we run. This is what we're going to do. You have to learn what we do and adapt to that rather than us work with you and adapt to what your skill strengths are. It's
great insight. Again, you can follow Matt Cassel, by the way. Sorry, Michael, M_Cassel16. I had to throw that in there.
I mean, it's just... It blows my mind. It blows my mind. I mean, like I was raised in that system. Like that's the only thing I know. And so for me, Matt confirmed it. But then when he goes, and everybody blames the player for not executing when it's about the player, it's about the skills of the player within the system. That was a Bill Walsh thing. I mean, I learned that my first year. We're going to develop the skills within the system. That doesn't mean he's got to run this, I think Brady's going through a little bit of that in Tampa. Tom wants to throw the ball in the middle of the field. Now, he made throws last week on the outside, but that's not what Tom loves. Tom wants a tight end, a nickel back, and a slot guy to throw it between the numbers.
100%. Like when you see him at his best, he's working that interior part of the field, getting his best matchups. They're doing it formationally, and then he's taking his shots. But if you ask him to go out there and just throw the ball deep every single time, that's just not something that he wants to do, right? He wants to control the middle of the field.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.